Thank you very much for coming. This is the first meeting of the West Ridge Community Council. First, I want to say thank you very much for Amy and the Chamber. We were going to have the meeting at Alderman Stone's office, and we thought we could. At the last minute, we were informed by the city that the internet connection would not allow us to have the meeting there with the internet. And so she graciously invited us to come here, and I don't know if she still feels the same way, but at that time it was very nice of her, and I appreciate the Chamber, and the Chamber has done a lot of work for our community. My name is Michael Moses. This is Alderman Stone. I'm president of the West Ridge Community Council. It's a new group. We should have a website up in the next 30 days, and we should have more of a mission statement at that time with the website. We have one of our directors here, Rabbi Alan Abramson from Anche Mutala, Raja Razak, Muhammad Kokar, Rabbi Salvechik, and Rabbi Kushner, and other members were not able to come tonight because of their own travels and their own business, but I'm sure they'll be at the next meeting. The reason we talked about starting this organization, and I know there are very fine other organizations in this area. Some of the members are here, and I'll recognize them later, especially if they get up to ask a question, is... Okay, is to talk not only resident to resident, to talk about the situations or problems or how to make the neighborhood better, but also to use technology like the internet. And I think that's really important. I think in the future, almost every meeting, especially quasi-government, which is the SSA, which I'm a member, hopefully this will be on the internet next time we have a meeting, local school councils, why can't a parent stay home and watch the local school council meeting, and also email in questions when the meeting's happening, a beat meeting and the DAC meeting, and any other meeting. I think it's really important. How many people are actually watching tonight, I really don't know. It might be one, it might be none, it might be 50. But I think over the years, or maybe even months, I think people will just get used to using the internet and having meetings. And I hope Alderman Stone would agree at least once a month to get on the internet and answer questions from email to meetings so people can directly ask him questions that they may have. I understand he has office hours. And it may sometimes be personal that you want to talk to him face to face, but many of these questions are generic, what's happening in the neighborhood. It might be a zoning question, and he should answer them. And I feel very strongly about this. Our organization has the word community in it. Other organizations have the word community in it, and that means input from the community, discussion among the community. And I know that these community groups, whether it's West Rogers Park or the North Side Alliance, they have meetings, 100, 200 people. That's fine. People always go to meetings. But we should also give people an opportunity who cannot go to the meeting. It might be in the hundreds, might be more, might be less, to have a say in what happens in the community. And I don't see any problem with that. The reason we're having this meeting, as we all know, is that there's been parking. I won't say the word problem, but I will say a parking situation around Devon and Rockwell. There was a case. The case is over, it's my understanding, and now they're building the building, and they're trying to build the garage as fast as possible. There's been some comments, there's been some complaints, there's been reaction to what's been going on in the neighborhood, and I thought we should have this meeting as soon as possible after that case was over. I asked Alderman Stone if he'd come to address any issues brought by the community, and of course he agreed, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I would like to talk about the parking issue first. I know if you have any other issue, if you can wait till the end of the meeting, because people came here to talk about the parking. There's a microphone over there on the side. If you have a question, what I'd like everyone to do, it's a crowded area, and I understand that. If you have a question or a comment, hopefully keep it short. Alderman Stone will answer it, and then let the next person ask a question or comment. Once everyone has a chance to ask a question or comment, then if you want to ask a second question, that's fine. But let's give everyone an opportunity to ask one question. And Again, I want to thank Amy and the Chamber. I think it's very nice of them to have us here, and hopefully next time we have a meeting, it will be a little bigger area. So if you do have a question or a concern that you want to talk about the parking, if you can get to the microphone. Yes. Yeah, go. Just stand in line, and once you ask your question, if you can step aside, I appreciate it.
Alderman Stone, I understand that, you might want to take a few minutes to say something about what you've done or what you've proposed. I understand it's all been at your own initiative. Nothing's gone through City Council. Nothing's been officially changed, although you've asked the police not to enforce permit parking and taking some of the signs down.
That's incorrect.
Well, why don't you explain what you've done and how you're doing it?
I'd like to say a few words first. Well, first of all, earlier this year, I met with the businessmen on the Vaughan. Actually, that was through the intercession of the West Ridge Chamber of Commerce. I met with the businessmen on the Vaughan. We explained to the businessmen, and that was prior to the conclusion of the lawsuit. But I knew that the lawsuit was going to be concluded in June, so therefore I called a meeting in May, and we met with the businessmen. I indicated to them that as soon as the lawsuit was concluded, what our intent was going to be. The intent was that if the suit was successfully concluded and the garage was going to start, what we were going to do was temporarily suspend some of the residential parking zones immediately around the parking lot so that we could get some temporary parking for the businessmen. I know it's an inconvenience to the people who live there, but it was an inconvenience that would be solved as soon as the building was built, because that would add 200 additional spaces that weren't there before. We then introduced ordinances at the June meeting of the City Council. Quite to the contrary, the statement that was just made.
That was just for refund of fees.
No, that was an ordinance that particularly stated that it would be for a period of 1 year that those would be, and it provided for anyone who had paid a fee in advance would be entitled to get their fee refunded. That was the secondary purpose of the ordinance. The primary purpose is that the residential zoning would be suspended. That is the primary purpose of the ordinance. The secondary purpose was to refund anybody who had paid because they're due in June. The secondary purpose was to refund the fees and anybody who paid in advance. Then we followed that up by making sure that the signs were taken down, but they weren't taken down rapidly, but I believe they're now down. Now the good news is that now that the work has commenced, once the garage, if we're fortunate enough to get fairly good construction weather, and the garage will proceed to go up, it should go up in a timely fashion so that parking would be available for the first 3 floors, which are the garage spaces, by sometime in late December or early January. And as soon as the parking spaces are available, then we will be able to once again restore the residential parking. And as soon as the residential parking is restored, then we'd be back at the same position that we were prior to the suspension of the residential parking. So it will not be necessarily a year. As soon as the first 3 stories are under roof and we're prepared to let the parking be open, we will do so. So it's only for temporary purposes, and we'll restore the parking as quickly as possible. It had to be done. Now, one of the things I want to address also is somebody took the time to prepare a statement which most of you have been handed out, and I'd like to address some of the statements that were made in this which is a well thought out plan, but unfortunately it's impossible to perform on it. Number one, he tries to combine different zones. Well, you can't do that. That's not the purpose of residential parking. Residential parking calls for each individual block to petition for the creation of residential parking. You don't do it on an area basis. You do it on an individual block basis, and that's the way it's done. In addition to which, he also wants to do it on an overnight basis, and that's not the purpose of residential parking. Residential parking doesn't create a private parking space for individuals who live there overnight. Residential parking the purpose of residential parking is when vehicles from outside the area come and park in the area, then you're supposed to be able to park your vehicles there. They don't come at night, they come during business hours. So there's no purpose in being overnight parking. You're not buying a parking space. So there is no place in the 50th Ward where there's overnight parking, and I will not, as long as I'm alderman, allow for overnight parking. That will not be done. As far as the zones involved, the 4 zones that he indicates there are the 4 zones that are involved. But that is not the intent of residential parking, and that is not what its purposes are. In any event, this is a temporary situation. It is only intended to be a temporary situation. The moment that the parking is available, it will be restored, and all those temporary situations will go back to what it was before. Now, I want to thank also the West Ridge Chamber of Commerce, who prior to this took the time, along with the help of other neighborhood organizations, to secure alternate parking spaces throughout the community. One of the things you'll find back on that back table is alternate sites for parking, which they did work on, but unfortunately they're insufficient. This neighborhood has been plagued with this problem certainly for years, and that's one of the primary purpose for building the parking garage. So that's the gist of what I wanted to say, and now I'll open it up to questions on it.
Thank you very much, Alderman. I'm concerned about the traffic flow. I could be on Damon and Devon to get to Kedzie, and it sometimes can take me longer to get to Kedzie from Damon than perhaps all the rest of the way out to Sheridan Road. Is there some solution that might be contemplated about traffic flow so that, let's say, between the state, local officials, and the let's say the police department, especially during peak times, to keep things running smoothly, especially pedestrians are crossing the street at all different places, so many different stop signs. Is there some solution that we could
Rabbi,
think?
one of the problems has been that vehicles circle the neighborhood looking for spaces. That's one of the reasons for establishing the parking lot. One of the things that in establishing the parking lot is we put in a left turn signal, are putting in a left turn signal at the corner of Devon and Rockwell, and the entrance to the garage is going to be off of Rockwell to get those vehicles. Instead of coming in off of Devon, will come in off of Rockwell. And the purpose of that is to take that back up on Devon, off of Devon. And we're hoping that the 200 additional spaces will keep those vehicles from circling the neighborhood and causing that backup on Devon. you do have a problem because Devon happens to be a narrow street, and it's a busy street, particularly on weekends, and you do have a clogged street. We can only deal with those problems in that manner. We also have problems with some of the drivers along Devon. They stop, they double park, they have conversations along the way that we can't deal with. We can only deal with it on that basis. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Alderman Stone. I'm actually new to the area, and maybe I need to have some help in understanding how it is. I was under the impression that the alderman is representing the residents of the area. I didn't realize that you represent the businesses, and I really don't understand why the residents are the ones that need to be inconvenienced, which in my case is more than an inconvenience. And I invite you to come and visit my home, where I have 2 infants and basically can't leave the house anymore on the weekends because you have decided to remove our resident parking.
Ma'am,
and
I
don't
represent
see,
everybody.
Excuse me, I'm not finished yet. Thank you. I don't understand why we're giving preference to out-of-state people that are coming to do business on Devon over residents, and I really need some help in understanding that.
Well, ma'am, we represent everybody. It's nice. It's nice for you to make that statement, but you wouldn't want to live in this neighborhood if it didn't have a strong economic base. One of the reasons that your house is worth the value that it's worth is that we have a strong economic base. Without that strong economic base, your house wouldn't be worth what it is. West Ridge has one of the strongest economic bases, and it has one of the strongest values in the entire city of Chicago. And the reason it has that is because of its strong economic base. For your temporary inconvenience, you will continue that strong economic base. It's only a temporary inconvenience. It's like if I have to replace your curbs, you're not going to be able to park at the curb for a while. Well, that's a temporary inconvenience. And this is a temporary inconvenience. Yes, it is an inconvenience, but unfortunately, that is a temporary inconvenience. You can't bake a cake without breaking some eggs. That's the way it works. I represent all the people. I represent the people who live in the homes. I represent the people who live in the apartments. I represent the commercial interests. I represent everybody. And that's the reason for it. And ma'am, you've been here a short period of time, but I've been here for 35 years. I've lived here for 56 years.
Wait, 1 second. If we could, 1 second. If we could just keep it to the person in front of the microphone asking questions. There's a lot of people here. A lot of people want to ask questions. And if we could just have some decorum, I'd appreciate it, and I think the other people would also. Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Yeah, my 3 questions, Alderman. Thank you. Okay, my 3 questions.
Well, let's combine your question to one question.
1 question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because other people want to ask questions too.
That only 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay. One, Tallman is one way, right? Arthur Cross. So Tallman stop sign there. And Arthur, another stop sign, left side Arthur. Lot of accidents.
I don't understand what he's saying. I'm sorry.
Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, on a parking problem, don't permit. So you sign. Left side, right side open.
Alternate the sides. Yes. He's suggesting
Open.
to alternate the sides of the street that are permit parking. On Monday here.
Right
Tuesday
right
there.
side, left side, one
That'll
side.
make less space for parking.
No, but permit parking on one side on this day, and permit parking on that side.
On one
That
side
really
open.
is what he's saying.
See,
Okay, and
both
then
both
anybody can
questions
park on the other side.
is okay. Okay, one side permit zone and one side no permit side no. Left side, left side.
Makes
And
sense.
I
Or
give
even
you
all the-
permit, government no lose money, you know. And I am old people live, grocery problem, child problem, every pick up, drop, problem. No, some car 8 hour, 6 hour.
This
10
is a
hours,
temporary
hold that,
situation.
hold that.
This is a temporary situation, and that does not solve the problem. It will not solve the problem. We have an influx of hundreds of vehicles into the neighborhood. I have to face a temporary problem, and I have to face it on the basis of what occurs when all those vehicles come into the community. Now, if you think I love permit parking, I don't love permit parking. But in the meantime, we established the permit parking for the convenience of the residents. But in the meantime, for a temporary basis, we had to stop it. And we're going to put it back as soon as the parking is available in the garage. And that is a temporary situation. You want to compromise, and what you're going to compromise is make it no good for anybody. It's not going to be good for the people who park there on permit parking, and it's not going to be good for the commercial parkers. What you're going to do is compromise it and make it not good for anybody. That's what you're going to do.
It's a time.
That's the only way I can answer you. Next person, please.
You can come back after everybody else is finished if we want to. Somebody else ask a question. Also want to recognize Muhammad Kokar, who's also a member who just came in late. Thank you very much for coming. And next question, please.
Good evening, Alderman Stone.
Good evening.
I'm the condo board president for a small condo association just south of Rockwell and Devon. We've been directly impacted by this temporary suspension, and it's caused a great deal of hardship for the members of our association. I understand what it is that you're saying about the need for a temporary suspension. The problem is there's a few problems with the actual implementation. And one of the big problems is that because of the zones you suspended, I can't go park on the next block down because that's a whole different zone. So what you've actually done is caused an issue where if I want to park on another block, I actually have to park 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away. And part of that gets back to the first point that you made about how parking is only done on a block-by-block basis. Well, actually, if you look at Zone 448, it's actually a collection of 4 blocks, which shows that right here in the 50th Ward, there have been zones that cover multiple blocks. And if we had a zone
448 is one of the few zones that does cover more than 1 block.
And unfortunately, it's right next to my zone, which is 659, which means that if I want to park, I can't park on 4 blocks right by my house. And so if I was part of 448, this wouldn't be a problem, or if 448 were also suspended, then I could park the next block over. But the problem we have, and my building has a lot of children in it, when we try and drop off our kids out front, we want to park, we can't. And it's very difficult for us, and I want to know, why it is that you feel it's more important that some out-of-town people who come in on the weekend can park in front of my place or any of the people in my building, and we can't even park the next block down, which is even more infuriating because all of those are single-family homes that have 2-car garages. And we're a multi-unit building, and we don't have enough parking for all the people that are in it, let alone all the apartment buildings around us.
It's not a question of what's more important. It's a question of trying to solve a temporary problem.
But don't you
it's
think
not
this,
a question
this
of
solution
importance.
Actually solves the problem. By making one zone, those of us who live here can park in that zone. So
I wish I could make it one zone, but I can't make it one zone.
Can you suspend Alderman Stone, can you
please,
suspend,
1 second, please.
Can you
just
suspend 448 so that I can park on the next block? Because if you're going to suspend some of them, suspend all of them. Don't just suspend a few and isolate those of us who are in the worst affected area. I mean, why did you choose the zones you picked?
Because they are the closest zones to the Devon and Rockwell.
And you never took into consideration what effect that would have on those of us who lived there. I mean, we can't park on the next block.
Of course I took it into consideration.
So why did you decide to preserve the parking on the next block and not allow us to park there?
I can't allow you to park there because you don't live there.
Okay.
So how can you allow out-of-towners to park in front of my house who don't live there? I mean, I don't understand that. That makes no sense. I mean, I got people with Indiana plates, Michigan plates parking in front of my house. They don't live there.
First of all, You know, I got a comedian in the front row here who likes to yell and scream and laugh, but I want to answer. I want to answer you.
My building
I want to
and
answer
the
you.
membership of my association. This document represents the first time residents and business owners have worked together to come up with a common solution. I think that's a huge step forward in the
Except it doesn't meet the criteria of the law.
Alderman Stone,
Look,
the 44th Ward, John Tunney's ward,
I know, I understand. Listen. One second, Mike, 1 second, please. Let him ask his question. He's asking questions I think other people want to ask, so I'm going to let him go a few minutes longer because I think he's hitting on the point that a lot of people want to hear. But it's not right for other people who are sitting down or standing up to yell or scream or agree or disagree. Mike's bringing up a lot of good points that the alderman's trying to answer. If we can just have some decorum and let him.
Allow me to
well,
answer.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, it's not you. It's not you. Other people are disturbing the answer. I can't help it. I'd like to answer.
Let's tune them out, Alderman Stone. Let's just ignore them and let's. Just
I'd love to answer you, but the answer is very simply the law has certain restrictions.
Okay.
I'm trying to. I have to follow the provisions of the law. When I answered you that you don't live there, that's what the provisions of the law is.
Okay.
And when I suspend the law on a certain block, and you say, well, you're allowing people from out of state to park there, that's when I suspended it. The law is no longer effective on your block.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up
Yes.
question, though? I just want to know about this law and the way it's written. That law applies equally all over the city of Chicago, correct?
That is correct.
So if that's the case, then why in Alderman Wegsback's 32nd Ward and Alderman Tunney's 44th Ward do they have both zoned parking and parking overnight? It's the same law.
Well, as far as overnight parking, that is up to the individual alderman.
Okay.
I won't allow parking overnight.
I think we all here could probably agree that we don't necessarily need overnight. Maybe
That's
you
a
could
matter.
stop it
That's
at
a
midnight. But we need to know-
overnight parking is a matter of a personal decision. And it's my personal decision that that's not the purpose of the residential parking.
So could you support, say, midnight?
I have allowed it up till 11 p.m. in the 50th Ward, but I won't go beyond 11 p.m.
But would you be willing to go from 6 to 11?
I go from 6 a.m. to 11 in other spots. Certainly I would.
So your issue with that piece, the overnight, is just the 11 o'clock piece. Like, would you let us have one zone if we had shorter hours? I mean, are you willing to negotiate, or are you here to just tell us that it's not going to happen?
I can't give you combined zones, is what I'm saying to you.
But why not? It's the same law.
Because the way the law is written, the law is written so that it provides for the residents of a block to petition the alderman.
So how did 448 happen?
448 happened because it's on Rosemont and around the corner. 448 is around the corner. It's Rosemont, it's Rockwell.
It's 4 blocks.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's Maplewood.
Well, if it is, I don't know how it happened, but I'm just telling you.
Yeah, so is it illegal then? I mean, I don't
know.
know.
I don't know if it's illegal, but I originally it was supposed to be Rosemont and Rockwell, and it was only supposed to wind around. I don't know how the other blocks got added, so I can't answer that because I don't know what happened there. But all I can tell you is that, and it happened under my watch, obviously, because residential parking didn't exist prior to my watch. But all I can tell you is that it's only supposed to be for the single block. I don't know the answer to
But
to
as
your
alderman,
question.
you have discretion underneath
Yes.
this law to set
Yes.
the parameters for how it's applied.
Yes.
And so you have already set the precedent in this ward that it can be multiple blocks. And I can totally respect that you've set the precedent that it can't go past 11 p.m. That's fine. But this one's already been established. So why can't you just why can't you issue 448 passes to those of us in the affected zones so I can go park in the next block?
I can study that. I'm willing to study that.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
All right, I'll get out of the way.